Okay, here we are in module 4.2 when we're going to start to talk about sexual reproduction and in particular about the creation of gametes. And gametes are just the eggs and the sperm. And so that's going to involve meiosis. Before we get into that, however, it's important for people to understand the major terms that are going to be used over and over again really for the rest of the semester. And they'll come up again if you take the second semester of this course. So let's start with some of those terms, two of the biggest being sister versus homologous. We've already talked about sister chromatids during module 4.1, talking about mitosis. Sister chromatids are the template plus the copy that is made during S phase. So we can look at that over here. You can see it's two strands of the same chromosome. So one of those strands, one of the sister chromatids, was synthesized from the other during S phase. So all the stuff we've been talking about with DNA synthesis, with mitosis, we're talking about sister chromatids so far. We haven't really said a whole lot about homologous chromosomes. And so that's a separate term. It is different than sister chromatids. So sister chromatids, again, it's two strands of the same chromosome, and that's shown here. You've got a single chromosome. This one's shown in blue. This one, it says it's from the father, and it has two copies, two strands of that same chromosome. So those are sister chromatids. Now, as soon as they split during anaphase, those sister chromatids are called daughter chromosomes. But for now that they're attached at the centromeres, these are sister chromatids. There are also in organisms like human beings, it turns out that most of your cells have more than one copy of each chromosome. And so in this case, what we're talking about is homologous chromosomes. So in human beings, you have one set of chromosomes from a father, so from sperm, and one set of chromosomes came from the egg that was fertilized by that sperm cell. And so in most of your body cells, a vast majority, there are actually two versions of each chromosome. And those two versions are called homologous chromosomes. We say they're two versions because they basically contain the same set of genes. But they might actually, and that's usually, so there are examples where there might be some differences. That's something that has to do with evolution, actually, and we'll talk about that later. However, even though they have the same set of genes, they might actually have different versions of those genes, and those versions are called alleles or alleles. Um, so homologous chromosomes are not related to each other during S phase. You'll see there is some relationship, but one homologous chromosome is not synthesized from the other, is basically what I'm saying down here. Whereas with sister chromatids, that is the case. So these are two terms that you should really become comfortable with. Sister chromatid versus homologous chromosome. Here's another analogy for this. It's a dumb one. In person, I used to hand out different flavored Jelly Bellies. Some people would end up getting cinnamon flavored Jelly Bellies, others would get cherry flavors. They look more or less the same, so red, but they taste very different. So in this case, I would say that the homologs or the homologous chromosomes are the two flavors. So we've got a cinnamon, we've got a cherry. They're the same species. Like they are the same, they are jelly beans from Jelly Belly, but they are very different sets of characteristics. So different sets of genes. The sisters now are the pairs within each. So if you were to make one Jelly Belly from another, it would taste exactly the same as the original. Um, and that's whether it's the cinnamon version or the cherry version. So we've got the sisters versus the homologous chromosomes here in Jelly Belly. This is definitely a lot more fun when you actually get to eat the Jelly Bellies. Okay, so that brings us to another set of terms, and this is haploid versus diploid. And this may have been mentioned once in a previous video, but I really want to make sure you notice these words. And so these actually refer to the number of homologous chromosomes in a cell. So now we're basically talking about homologous chromosomes. So haploid means there is one copy of each unique chromosome. So in this case, we would say that this organism, whatever it is, has 3 non-homologous chromosomes. And you would write that as n equals 3. So n equals 3, when you see n in this context, when you're talking about chromosome numbers, n suggests that that is a haploid cell or a haploid nucleus. And so in this case, each of these chromosomes contains a different set of genes. So they are different chromosomes. They are unique. They are not homologous. Diploid now, you can see you still have those original 3 that were in the haploid cell, but now you've added another version of each of the chromosomes. So now there's a pair of each chromosome. And so we would now say that that's 3 pairs of homologous chromosomes. And the standard for writing that down is 2n equals 6. So we can now know that the total number of chromosomes in this particular cell is 6, but 3 of those out of the 6 are identical to the 3 others in many ways. So they're versions. So 3 pairs of homologous chromosomes, we would write that as 2n, that indicates diploid, equals 6. Again, take time and make sure that you understand the difference between these two words, and especially how this relates to the terms, especially the term homologous. So where would you find haploid? In human beings, the only place you're going to find haploid cells is the gametes, and the gametes are either sperm or egg. Every other cell, which that's known as somatic cells, those are everything in your body except the gametes, those are all going to be diploid in human beings. For a little bit more of an idea of how this all works, especially trying to break down when are those sister chromosomes synthesized, what are the numbers of chromatids versus chromosomes in the different phases of the cell cycle. This is a great video. There's a related video from the same folks. They make just sort of adorable videos with, here's a chromosome wearing sunglasses. It's adorable. Here are some that are, it looks like they're copying the butt of another chromosome. So again, adorable. Ooh, actually, I just noticed that, see how it's just the one strand that's on the copier, but when he gets copied, there are actually 2 strands down below. Oof, that is attention to detail. So thanks, Amoeba Sisters. This one actually gets into, it goes a little beyond just talking about homologous versus sister chromatids, and it gets into this concept, or it's a technique of karyotyping. And so I think that's pretty interesting. If you have any interest in, let's say, like forensics or forensic medicine or genetic counseling or anything like that, karyotyping would be an important method to understand. So maybe take a chance, watch those 2 videos. Hopefully they'll teach you something. Okay, so here's another one trying to really dig in on the definitions. So here we have 2 homologs. These are homologous chromosomes. What you can see here is if I go down the side, I've basically just randomly labeled things as, different genes. So let's say this gene 1 is the gene for red hair, gene 2, or hair color, sorry, and gene 2 is eye color, gene 3, I don't know, height, gene D and gene 5, facial hair or something. So that's the idea. And so over here, those same genes are present on this chromosome. That's how we can tell it's the homologous chromosome. It's the same genes, however, it might be different versions. So over here, maybe gene 1 codes for red hair, whereas over here, we've got something that codes for brown hair. Again, on the left, maybe, I don't remember what I labeled these. This is height, so maybe this is Gene 2, it's the short version, and gene 2 is still height, but now it's a tall version. And so they have the same genes, but maybe they have different versions of those genes, different alleles. So that's what we would say here, that in a diploid cell, that cell is going to have two alleles for each gene. And an allele, again, can be defined as just one of several versions of a single gene. So lots of terms. Make sure you write these down. Make sure that you're very careful about differentiating one from another. So here is yet again the definition of homologous chromosomes. It is two chromosomes that contain the same set of genes. Those genes may or may not be the same alleles of those genes. So maybe both of the chromosomes in your cells have the allele for red hair. Maybe one is red hair and one is brown hair. It's just two possible versions. All right, so that gets us through a lot of the important terminology. Again, get comfortable with that. Now I'm going to, in the following videos, get into the stages of meiosis.